here, did that have the appearance of blood to you?
Yes, it did.
Now, we've been talking about all these patterns and cast off and speeds and that sort of thing, active versus passive. First thing we sort of see is this right here. If that were blood, what would that tell us?
That there's a large enough volume that it is flowing down, that gravity is acting upon it.
And do we know how that got there? Because we've talked about something hitting something and then flying on there. Is there anything that we know about this one other than that gravity acted upon it?
No.
Exhibit number 84, and I want to direct you to this area here. Do you see that there?
Yes, I do.
And closer view, exhibit 86. The area there. Exhibit 87, that's a close-up of that area. And then exhibit 88, which is the toilet. Do you know where this toilet was?
Yes.
And exhibit 89. Are we still looking at the toilet?
Yes. The stains that I see on the toilet and the bottom of this door jamb are from an impact. There is an impact to the blood source of some sort that then causes the blood droplets to fly through the air and be deposited upon that surface.
By looking at those, can you tell us the distance of the source to that location?
I can't define specifically, but I can tell you because they are small blood droplets at the bottom, those don't travel very far due to the effect of wind resistance upon them, air resistance. So they're not going to travel very far. So the blood source was in proximity too.
And any idea how far, or is it in proximity?
In proximity, close proximity.
Where was can you tell us anything about the blood source, its positioning as in terms of high up, middle, ceiling, floor? What can you tell us about that?
Those stains are all from about 12 inches and down, and the stains that I was looking at are all round, which means that the blood source was actually low, and those blood stains simply flew to the side and impacted the wall at a 90-degree angle, and they made it essentially circular drops.
So what I understand you say, correct me if I'm wrong, the source was low, source was not too far away because of the smaller droplets there, and there was impact to the blood source.
That's correct.
Well, let's look at the toilet that's back there. Toilet in number 90. What do we see here?
We see the same type of stains, fairly round, on a rounded surface like the side of the toilet. They can round, even though they might hit at a 90-degree angle, those can sometimes look a little bit more elliptical just because of the surface of the curved toilet. But those are essentially the small stains that I was talking about on the door jamb, and at the same height, they are below 12 inches.
Looking at these and the ones on the toilet, exhibit 87, spatially speaking, they're in different areas, correct?
Correct.
Does that tell you anything about the number of strikes to the blood source, or does it not? Because the way that these are lined up and you can see in the photograph, I can't rule that out as having been from the same event. It could be from more than one event, but it's at least, I can't rule out that it was simply one. When you say event, are we talking about strikes?
One strike to that blood source.
Okay. Let's take a look at exhibit number 84. Do you see this floor mat here? Do you see the floor mat
Yes,
there?
I do.
With regard to that floor mat, did you conduct any tests?
I did examine that mat back in the laboratory.
And exactly what did you do to examine that floor mat?
I did my Kastle-Meyer preliminary test for the presence of blood, and I noted the presence of blood all over the bottom of that mat, in addition to the stain that's on top. The top is all bamboo strips, and that's what the blood on top of the mat was laying on top of. The bottom has a felt type middle, and then a fabric edge, and it's not the kind that the blood would not have traveled from that one drop through the bottom. It's more consistent with that mat having been moved either over blood stains that were already there, or there had been water in the scene and that water mixed with the blood could have traveled under and deposited.
Taking a look at this item there, along with the one that's here around the corner, what are we looking at there?
That is a large accumulation of blood.
And how was that blood left there? How did the source leave the blood there?
One of the likelier options is that a blood source was in one position, allowing it to drip down and collect in that area. The other being, I can't account for all of the situations with water, how water would, and this tile would pull it together, but I can't totally dismiss that some of the water activity deposited it there, though it seems more likely due to the size of it that it was deposited from a blood source.
Exhibit 91, what do we have here?
We have more blood stains on, this is the eastern wall of the exterior of the toilet room.
And let's talk about these right here.
Those that, on this wall, I observed blood stains that were traveling in a downward or downward and towards the south, which is the window.
And in terms of how they were deposited there, do you have an opinion as how those were?
An impact to a blood source.
Okay, exhibit number 94. We talked about the wall in exhibit number 91, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And how about down here on the ground? What kind of drops are those?
Those are blood stains that I wouldn't offer an opinion whether those could be passive or be ones that hit the ground from the impact on that west wall.
Exhibit number 95, and what are we looking at here in terms of the scale?
We're looking at a scale that is on the south end of the bathroom that has blood stains on top of and underneath the scale. It is on the floor. The stain is on the floor itself.
Okay, so if the scale is on top of it, what does it tell you about the stain that's there?
That the scale was moved into the position above the blood stain.
And do we have any issues about water with regard to this one or not?
No.
Exhibit number 96. Okay, right up against the wall here, do we see?
There are blood droplets.
And did you have occasion to look inside the wastebasket?
I did.
And what did you find in the wastebasket?
There was a paper towel and 2 empty toilet paper tubes, type cardboard rings.
Did they have anything or any indication of blood or anything that looked like blood in that tub, in that wastebasket?
I examined the toilet paper tubes back in the laboratory, and my indications with my test were that there was blood detected.
Just to orient ourselves, exhibit number 93. This is the scale we've been talking about, and the trash can is right here, correct?
That's correct.
And then we have the sink area, right?
Yes.
Exhibit number 98. What are we looking at here?
There's 2 sinks in the bathroom. This is the one to the north.
Coloration of that seems to be a little bit different than the one inside the bowl.
I would.
And what would cause something like that?
It appears diluted as if it would be with water.
Exhibit number 100, as it applies to that, what are we looking at here?
The blood is dripping down the side of the ledge of the counter. Those diluted patterns, I would say, are evidence of transfer between a blood-bearing source and a non-blood-bearing source, depending.
If we look to the left of that, do you see this right here?
Those are what we were previously discussing as passive drops that are simply being acted upon by gravity.
Let's look at Exhibit 105. Are those the ones we're talking about?
Yes.
And then a larger view of it, or 102. You see that?
Yes. The blood source was above this location, above the sink,
All right.
but in some sort of motion over the sink.
At some point, there was some motion by the blood source over the sinks, and that's what that tells you, right?
Correct.
And it also tells you that, I guess it was over the top of the sink.
Over the top.
Is this partly a function of gravity?
Yes. The source is above the sink, and some of those you can see are specific droplets. Some of them, because of the curvature of the sink, are merging together.
But the source of the blood is...
Above the sink.
Do these also imply movement like those that are down here, or do they not?
Well, since they're in several different locations, it would imply that the blood source is moving a bit, yes.
Exhibit number 98. See this area right over here near the mirror?
I do.
Was there any blood spatter or any blood on the mirror?
There was. It's very difficult to see when we get to those shots because of the mirror, but there was. When I was talking earlier about the categories, I discussed the projected blood, that blood that is that a force or a pressure acts upon to eject a volume of blood. This would be categorized in that category and could be a number of different mechanisms.
Where was the blood? I understand that perhaps because of the flash we're not really able to see it, but if you could tell us where it would be or show us on the monitor there. And this right here, this event underneath it right there, is that the same kind of spatter?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not this spatter here was caused by the same event that caused the spatter?
It would be consistent with being from the same event.
And if we take a look at exhibit number 101, are we then looking at this spatter? And again, my question is, how come some are dripping and some aren't?
Because when blood is acted upon with force, that not all, the blood droplets don't all break into the same size. And so some are going to be larger. And so some, when they hit that, have more of a weight or a volume, and therefore they drip down from the gravity because they're a larger stain.
What can cause this kind of spatter pattern?
I earlier discussed the expirated, which was somebody maybe coughing or sneezing if they have blood in their airways, or from a wound, air forcing that out. The head is a very vascular area, and I don't know if you've ever nicked yourself shaving, then you know that those can bleed quite a bit. And a wound or a laceration to the head could cause the misting and the patterns that we see here, the size staining that we see here.
And what else? Anything else?
Gunshot wounds can produce that type of misting effect as well.
Exhibit number 114 shows us what? What are we looking at there?
There is a casing laying in a blood stain. The blood stain was there, and the casing came and landed upon that. It would tell us the blood was already present, so the blood source was already bleeding prior to the gunshot.
So, I don't know about this sweet person, but what does it tell you in terms of this? Was the blood source already bleeding at the time that this casing somehow found its way into that blood?
Yes.
Casing, in terms of when it was it placed in relation to the blood? When was that casing placed there in relation to the blood?
After the blood was deposited there.
So the blood source was already bleeding?
Yes.
So based on that, and based on, you indicated that you read the medical examiner's report?
Yes,
correct?
I did.
And having read the medical examiner's report, having taken a look at that, what is your opinion then as to the source in exhibit number 101, or the mechanism as to how that pattern there was formed?
Then I would say that it would be either the expirated, the coughing, or a laceration to the head, one of those mechanisms.
But not the gunshot?
Not the gunshot.
Let's take a look at exhibit number 116. Are you familiar with that area?
Yes, this is the linen closet to the north of the sink area.
And exhibit 117, what are we looking at there?
It's an accumulation of blood at the edge of the linen closet. I don't know how much blood is there. It looks like a large amount. It would be a product of time of the blood source being in one position for a little while, but I don't know how long.
And then take a look at exhibit 115 in terms of the item that we just looked at. What are we seeing here?
I'm looking for a better
Well, then let's take a look at 118. Is this a better one?
It is. There's a box within that linen closet that has that shows bloody water has wicked up into the diluted shades of blood, and that simply travels up the box in a wicking motion, in a wicking action.
The fact that it looks like it's all the way around the box, does that speak to the volume of blood that was around this area, or is it you can have just a little bit of blood and then it sort of mushrooms out if you apply water to it?
I couldn't quite comment on the volume of blood, other than you can still see the demarcation lines are very red, so it seems like it's not just a drop of blood in water.
We've seen this item there. Now if we look a little further on down, Exhibit 125, we see another one of those. Do you see that?
Yes.
What can you tell us about the fact that there's these very much larger circular areas of blood? What does that say about the source? Or can you tell us anything about what the source was doing?
Well, the source had, like I addressed earlier, that it could either be the action of the blood source being in one position there for a while, bleeding that accumulation, that little pool, or there could be some process of this with the water contact, it pooling in one area, but I'm not certain about that.
Okay. Exhibit 120. Are you familiar with item number 6 on this photograph?
No.
Are you familiar with having done screening on a hair follicle?
I did screening on a hair. I was not,
Why don't you
not
take
certain that it was number 6.
Do you know whether or not the hair was at the number 6 location or not?
I would only be able to know a property ID number referencing my report, but I don't know that.
Why don't you
off
go
the
ahead and
top.
do that, all right?
If that was number 6LB, that's what I had it referenced as, 6LB.
All right, and what is 6LB?
Was a possible hair.
And what did you do with that possible hair back at the lab?
Back at the lab, I did my preliminary Kastle-Meyer test. Didn't get indications of blood, but on the end that appeared to possibly have a root ball, or had white material consistent with being a root. I processed that and sent it forward for DNA analysis.
Why did you focus on the root as opposed to the hair itself?
Because that's where we can get our DNA. That's where,
Is that where
our
the DNA
process-
resides?
Yes. For the way that we process DNA, yes.
Let's take a look at Exhibit 126. And for reference, you see this door trim there? You see that?
Is that the closet? If that is the edge of the linen closet, then this is the west wall of the master bathroom hallway.
My question is, why is this area here much lighter than the other stains that we've been looking at?
Due to the contact with water. That water has spread over this area and has not affected the other areas as much.
See this area right here?
Yes.
What is that?
That would be transfer stain, as we talked about earlier, a blood-bearing source coming into contact with another source, with another surface.
And so it's sort of a sliding kind of process there?
It is linear, so it could be sliding that way, correct?
Then exhibit number 127. Do you see that there?
Yes.
And what is this? What's going on here?
It appears to be the same. It's a transfer, again, a transfer pattern.
But why is it up here that it's just linear and down here we have it coming down? Do you see that?
There's more volume for one reason, for whatever reason. The contact with the blood source was more. There's more of a volume that caused it to drip down.
Exhibit number 129. See the door up here?
Yes,
And so which wall is this one right here?
that is the west wall.
As we look at this, part of the reason I want to talk about this is, what is this over here first?
That is the saturation stain on the carpet.
So that is carpet then, right?
Yes, that's carpet.
We see this right here. You see that little circle there, kind of half circle thing there? You see that?
I see the carpet.
And then this area here is relatively clean. And then you follow this around and all the way back. It also appears to be relatively clean until you see this spot here. and this other spot here that we've talked about previously. How is it, or what does that tell you in terms of the depositing of blood when you have a situation like this, and then you take a look at the left right there?
Well, where we can see that water has come into contact, it could be that water has gone through the entire middle.
But if water's gone through the middle, what's going on over here? And it seems to be in a round circle down here. Can you tell me how that happens?
Maybe there was something there that prevented it from that area being bloody.
Would it also be consistent with, for example, a cleaning utensil of some sort
It could be, yes.
coming through here and doing this?
Sure.
In looking at these along the wall here, is it a circumstance that the source is bleeding as it goes along there, or are any of those related to strikes, or is it just a situation that the source, as it passes through there, however it passes through there, is just depositing the blood? Is that what's going on?
It could be. They're not really in a pattern for me to determine this was where an impact occurred, this is where something else occurred. They're just a bunch of blood stains and some accumulations and the dilute factor. So I couldn't really talk about a specific incident each down that hall.
But could you tell me whether or not the source at least was in these areas to
Yes.
deposit that blood?
Yes.
And at the same time, was the source at least depositing blood on the left side of it?
Yes.
Let's take a look at Exhibit 132. Is this the carpet?
Yes, it is.
If that's the carpet, what wall is this one?
That's the east wall.
And again, we see this up here. Do you see right above the switch there? Or not the
Yes.
switch, but the electrical outlet? And then this right here.
Right.
What could create that sort of circular half-moon kind of pattern on the wall?
Any sort of it's a transfer type stain, so anything that would be blood bearing coming into contact with it, or the blood being on the wall and something coming into contact with it and moving it along.
And then if we take a look at the area to the right of the switch in Exhibit 133, we see that circular pattern also, right?
Correct.
And why is it coming down right to the right of that switch? What does that
It
say?
might just be a matter of the volume that contacted it right there.
Gravity?
Those could be from gravity. Because of the water, it makes them very difficult to determine them from a specific event, but they were clearly deposited there.
Why does the water make it difficult to do that?
Because it washes away the edges of any of the blood stains and makes them not regularly shaped, which is what we look for in identifying patterns.
Down here, you see this area here?
Yes.
Now, that area was cut out and we've taken a look at it. Have you actually taken a look at the rug yourself? The cutout?
I did see it when somebody else had it out, yes.
And so you did see it.
I did see it.
And with regard to this particular stain, this is exhibit number 131, what can you tell us about it?
That is a large saturation stain, which means that it's a large pool, an accumulation of blood or a blood pool that's gone into an absorbent material, i.e. the carpet.
So can you tell us anything about whether or not the source was?
I couldn't define the position other than it was over that area.
What about right here? Do you see this one sort of seems, for lack of a better term, more pristine, whereas this one up here seems to be rubbed? Do you see that?
Yes.
What could cause that?
It could be any sort of contact with that stain.
Somebody walking through it could do that?
Absolutely.
Were you able to determine whether or not there had been any water applied to this area?
Not when we saw this side, but when we saw the underside, we did.
Okay, I'm asking about what you saw. Okay, so
Okay.
when you saw, did you see the underside?
I did see the underside.
On the underside, how is it that you were able to see whether or not water had been applied? How are you sure that you did see that?
Because there was, the same way that looking down the hall, there was the dilute blood stains, you could see the light shade of red covering areas of the tile. It was very much diffused around this, under this carpet, under this stain, kind of the same coloration maybe as the box that was in the linen closet. So a lighter shade of red, implying it had been diluted and it had flowed down in that area. Well, when we were at the scene, I don't recall it being wet, but looking at it from underneath, it had at least seeped through from the edge of the tile on, but I don't know how
Okay.
the mechanism for carpet.
Well, let me show you exhibit number 128. We see that same stain there on
Yes.
the left side. Then we look over here on the right. Do you see that on the right?
Yes.
What is going on with that?
It appears to be a lot of transfers, and part of that could be from either stains that have been disrupted by walking over them. It could be a product of the diffused, the diluted blood flowing under, and then it being walked on and coming up to the surface.
So
I can't make an absolute determination.
It could-
There had been nice-looking stains there. Walking over it could have disrupted that and created this.
Does this imply a lot of walking or a little bit of walking?
Well, it's not a pristine-looking area, so it would imply a lot of movement of some sort.
Could it
or
also be-
contact of some sort.
Could it also be that, do you see that it sort of seems to end here?
Yes.
Did you see any that went this way? This walking motion, or if it was walking this way?
I mean, beyond this?
Yes, beyond this.
I never saw any blood beyond this area in the
So
bedroom.
this is the only area that you saw this staining of blood, right?
Correct.
Did you see any blood throughout the master bedroom anywhere other than right here in this area?
Just right here, and then I think there was maybe one stain or so right outside the closet here.
Where?
Over here.
Show me where.
Right here. I just wrote on top of it.
Okay, so was it a large stain or a small?
No, just a couple drops maybe.
A couple drops there? But did you see any near the bed, anywhere
No,
else?
no, I did not.
How about near the area where the bathroom goes into the closet? Did you see any blood staining there at all?
In the closet, no.
So with regard to this staining here, would it be consistent with, and if you know, you don't know, somebody sort of walking on this, for whatever reason they're walking on this particular area and not going into the bedroom,
Yes,
but perhaps going the other way?
perhaps, yes.
Let's see, look at exhibit number 78. You see that?
Yes, I do.
And was there any staining here? Was there any blood staining at all? That's the closet, right?
That's the closet, no.
And then we have something right here in the corner there. Do you see that?
Yes,
You then go to exhibit number 121. That's the area, right?
correct.
Well, describe for me what's going on. What's the action?
Another transfer pattern, the contact between a blood-bearing source and another surface in a
And-
linear fashion.
As they're going by.
Yes.
Right? Did that extend in this direction in any way at all?
No,
We know where we're headed, exhibit 78. You see the number 2 there?
yes,
Exhibit number 79 shows us that corner there, right?
yes.
And right there is what at that turn?
That transfer again.
And exhibit 81 shows us, first of all, what is this part right here?
It appears it could be a transfer,
No, I
again.
mean, what does it lead to? This
It
area?
leads to, it's the lip of the shower.
And is that where the body was?
Yes, it was.
And so we then see this right here, this reddish substance. Again, what does that mean in terms of arriving there at that place?
That something, a bloodstained source came into contact with it.
And is it the transfer pattern that you
It's
talked about?
consistent with the transfer, yes.
Exhibit 121. Do you see that right there?
I do.
What is that?
It's called a pattern transfer, where you can actually identify a pattern within a transfer stain.
And the pattern that you have there, is that consistent with a barefoot? Is that consistent with socks? Or is that consistent with shoes?
It's consistent with a shoe tread.
So if we look at exhibit 122, that's what we're looking at, right?
Yes.
And what's the direction of this particular stain? If we
It
then,
is-
let me give you exhibit 249. And I'll bring it in closer. It was right in this area, correct?
I think I just saw, can you lower it down a little bit? I think I saw where it says shoe tread right on the lip there, shoe impression. Somebody
Okay.
says they're drawing.
What was the direction of that print? All All right. What does it mean when this pattern is in what? Blood, right?
Correct.
What does it mean in terms of the individual who wore this shoe, in terms of the sequencing and how this blood could have arrived there?
That they were walking through the bathroom after blood was shed.
And after they were wearing shoes?
And after they were, yes, correct.
I don't have any other questions.
Before we get into some of the other things you talked about being at the crime scene, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And a few moments ago, I think recently enough, I won't show you the picture again, the state showed you a bit of blood that was on the lip of the shower.
Correct.
Or the base of the shower, right?
Yes.
Okay. In the shower stall, the walls, everything that encased it, was there any blood found there?
On the floor only.
Okay, on the floor only, not on the walls?
No.
Okay. And no traces of blood on any of the walls, correct?
No.
Testing, okay. Now, I just want to go back to Exhibit 249. I believe this will demonstrate things a little better than the photos. A few moments ago, Mr. Martinez showed you the pool of blood that is denoted that was in the carpet that's denoted by this area. Do you recall seeing that?
I did.
Okay. And he asked you some questions about if there was any blood any farther inside the room than that point where the blood ended in the pool.
Correct.
Okay. And you mentioned a few drops that were over towards the closet, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But you said there was no blood in the closet.
No blood in the closet.
And it seemed to me what the implication here was in terms of what you were saying is that someone could not have walked through the blood-covered carpet into the closet without bringing some trace of blood with them. Is that accurate?
It seems like a logical explanation,
Okay.
yes.
So, and ultimately what we're really saying, whether it's into the closet or not, no one would have walked through that pool of blood once it was deposited. Is that accurate?
Nobody would have walked through.
It because we would have seen signs of transfer, at least towards the room, I should say.
But towards the bedroom, I didn't see anything beyond that one little area. Whether somebody would walk through, I don't know.
Right, and if I was unclear,
Okay,
I
sorry.
apologize. But no, you wouldn't see, there's no evidence of somebody having walked through after that blood was deposited there.
Correct.
Is that correct? That's all I have, thank you.
Any redirect?
With regard to somebody either walking through that area into the bedroom, where have we looked at that has all of the blood in it?
So all the blood is in the blood is in the master bathroom and that area of the carpet.
And in the master bathroom, is there something called water?
Yes.
Was water used in this case as part of an attempt by whoever it was to sort of change the patterns there?
Objections, to be honest, across.
Overruled.
After that pause, can you restate the question? Sorry.
Could you read it back to her?
Was water used in this case as part of an attempt by whoever it was to sort of change the matter?
I would say water did change the matter. As to the motivation, I wouldn't want to speculate on that, but water did alter what I saw.
And that water that was used in there, could that water also be used, for example, to wash, I don't know, hands? Could they also be done to do that?
Yes.
Could it also be done to, for example, clean feet? Could it be done to do that?
Yes.
And water, do you know what a towel is?
Yes.
Could a towel then, after water was used, could that be used to wipe up feet and hands and that sort of thing?
Way beyond the scope of cross.
Sustained.
You were asked whether or not you saw anything or any other blood, if you will, Exhibit 249, in this area here, right?
Correct.
With regard to the properties of blood, is it difficult for water to clean them off the body, for example, the hands?
To wash blood off the hands?
Right.
No.
I don't have any other questions.
Looks like we have a